It's almost like somebody's always got a fire burning under your arse. You know, if you want to be a boxer, then you've got to understand that sometimes you're going to get punched in the face, and sometimes those punches could result in you being knocked out. There was more likelihood of me becoming an MP than there was becoming a Premier League footballer. I think the thing from that I took out was you were more likely to be hit by a meteorite than you were to become a Premier League footballer. So when you look at it in that context, you realise that you can't just be lucky. Like I get banned about, like I think it was Simon Jordan who does talk sports. He was trying to insult me online. He said, "Oh, you're just a bang average Premier League player." Like, do you know, that's such a nice compliment. Do you know how hard it is to play in the Premier League? It's like off the scale. And to play there for 12 seasons or whatever it is I've played, like you don't get there unless you're bang average. And to be bang average at that level, you know, is an incredible compliment. You have no life really. Well, people go, "Oh, Premier League players, but you know, they earn a lot of money, but they're on 24/7. You know, I know doctors and nurses, so on and so forth, do a great job, but usually at 6 o'clock, they can go home, they can go for a few pints with the mates, or they can go and have dinner, they can go. That ain't the case. You know, if you're a builder, the minute your shift's up, you're not thinking about what's the other roofing company doing, what's that builder, how's he putting his roof in, how am I going to get his business. You know, that doesn't happen when you're a Premier League player. When you're a footballer, that you're on 24/7. Even in the summer when you're off, all you're thinking about is the manager going to replace me? How am I going to do? What am I going to cope with next year? How do I stay fit? How do I stay ahead of the curve? Can I stay away from injury? Is there anything I can do to make myself better? So you're on mentally 24/7. And I think this is why a lot of kids' heads explode, because they don't understand that. You know, because they think, once I get to that level, I'll be able to relax. Well, you just never do. It's almost like somebody's always got a fire burning under your arse. And you think, if I get up to that level, I'll get away from the fire. And the fire moves up and becomes a bigger fire because there's more people out to get you. Get away from that fire, you get up and it's just even bigger because now you're in the Premier League and the whole of Europe and the whole of the world want to be here because of the financial structure. So you've got to embrace that pressure. And no one can teach you to handle that. You could be the best young footballer in the country, but nobody, no academy coach, no course you go on, nothing can teach you to whether you can deal with that or not. The only thing that can teach you to deal with it or not is when you get thrown in at the deep end. Then you find out whether you can swim or not. Some people, I think you can dip them in and out the water, you know, let them dip the toes in, dip the legs in, you know, that's a perfect scenario. But such is the animalistic position of that league, and you know, managers, you know, look, Conte won the league last year, they're talking about him getting the bullet already, you know, so if they're fighting to survive, you know, at that level, is he going to take a kid and just dip his toes in? And it's very, very rare you get that. Very, very rare you get the manager who's got the platform, the stable platform to be able to do that. So usually you just get lobbed in. Can you swim? No. Sound. Let's get him out of it. He can't swim. And if you can swim, you're lucky. But it's not something that's new to Premier League football. You think back to the East German Olympic campaign, you know, throw enough eggs at the wall and one won't break. And that's the nature of our industry. You know, the meat grinder of academy football now is that. That's why you're getting so many eggs that are just cracking and getting discarded out the other end. And now they're saying, well, so now they're giving them GMVQs in, you know, motor engineering. I think that's what we got offered when we were at Man City. You can have a GMVQ in motor engineering. I mean, so what, you're going to go from aspiring to be a Premier League footballer to being a mechanic? I mean, it's ill-conceived, but also, you know, if you sign yourself up for this, it's like signing yourself up to be a boxer and then complaining when you get knocked out. You know, if you want to be a boxer, then you've got to understand that sometimes you're going to get punched in the face, and sometimes those punches could result in you being knocked out. So if you want to have longevity in that industry, you know, don't complain about getting punched in the face. You know, toughen yourself up towards it. Do everything you can to avoid that happening. But ultimately, over the course of your boxing career, somebody's going to hit you square in the face. And you know, the punch bag, when you're on the punch bag, doesn't really hit you back. And the only thing that's ever going to prepare you for getting punched square in the face is having a few punches in the face along the way. So it's a cutthroat industry, but people know what to sign themselves up for. If you don't like it, you're in the wrong sport, you're in the wrong industry. I think you only ever enjoy your career when you've retired for 10 years and you look back upon it. Because I think, you know, winning the playoff final, you know, the minute the whistle blew and everyone's celebrating, you have a couple of pints and then you start thinking, shit, we've got to stay in the Premier League next year. How are we going to do that? Firstly, how did that happen? How did we get in the Premier League? And then secondly, how are we going to stay there? And instantly you're on, and you know what needs to change. You know, so you have that euphoric moment, which might be a small window, and then the brain kicks in. Okay, how do we survive? So it's pure animal kingdom.
How do you see British coaching at the moment?
You know, we're facing a coaching epidemic in this country. We really are. You know, a lot of our top level, and it's due to the financial strength of the league. You know, the things that we see as positives we're seeing now. You know, fans being priced out, tickets not budgeted for in a country which has got severe economic issues, and I think, you know, we've got to be mindful of what we're leaving. It just feels to me at this moment in time everybody's just taking. So there's a massive treasure trove, and everybody's taken out of it from all around the globe now. It used to be just in this country, it's now global, and at some point there's going to be nothing left in the bottom, and then it's going to be left to us to pick it up, similar to what Serie A is now. If you look at Serie A, when I grew up as a kid watching Channel 4's coverage of it, it was the best league in the world. You know, you had all the world superstars going there, and they were all getting top money, record transfer fees, all competing. It was an arms race. And then financial Armageddon comes. You're no longer the most viable product on the market. And what is left is an absolute shadow of what it once was. And at some point that will happen here. Whether it's 20 years down the line, 5 years, 15 years, whatever it is, it will come along. And we have to insulate ourselves towards that, because they'll just pack up. The TV money from the Far East will pack up and move on elsewhere. I think we should be proactive in insulating ourselves against that happening. It may never happen, but yeah, you know, the rational part of your brain says at some point, you know, you have in the 80s or 90s, Filia's the #1 brand, and everyone's wearing Filia tracksuits, and then it goes Sergio Ciccini, whatever it is. Then no one sees Nike coming, and now Nike's the monster, and that's what happens. You know, there is shifting trends. I mean, the Premier League will be trying for their utmost to constantly position themselves in that, and they may well be able to do that. But I think at some point we're going to have, just due to the fact that all the other European leagues are struggling, I think we're going to have the European super clubs break away. I mean, we're already seeing mutants of it now, with asking for bigger shares of TV revenue. I mean, all the top English clubs, Liverpool are owned by Americans, Russia owns Chelsea, Arsenal are owned by some shares by a Russian, some shares by an American, Man United's Americans, you know, Spurs are owned by Joe Lewis, who lives offshore somewhere.
Bermuda, I think. So
they're not owned by, you know, Burnley are a rare exception, Mike Garlock, you know, a local guy, but in the Premier League terms, there's not many. You know, you look at the Chinese, bought Southampton and West Brom. So why the Chinese, if there's a European Super League, why would the Chinese owner not want to be in it? He don't care about English football. He only cares about the Premier League because it's providing incredible TV revenue at this moment in time. So at some point, and if you look deep enough, there's already mutants of it. You've got this European group of super clubs, which I think the spokesperson, or certainly the spokesperson I seen talk was Karl-Heinz Rummenigge. They're already saying, why is the FIFA World Cup not paying us? Because we're contracted all the top players, and they're the ones who started in the World Cup. We should be getting a revenue share. Mm-hmm. So there's going to be, you know, why was the Premier League formed? Well, the Premier League was formed to stop a European Super League, a breakaway to the European Super League. So that's not going to go away. That's always going to be the wolf at the door. You know, you've seen now with the Champions League, most sides would rather win the Champions League than win their own. Well, City, I think, would rather win the Champions League than their own domestic league. No, it's about creating a brand, you know, in that country. So, you know, if PSG are aligned with Qatar, then, you know, there's a synergy in terms of the relationship works for both teams. But I don't understand how at first I don't understand how it's allowed in football. Mm-hmm. I don't see how, you know, say Russia decide to buy Burnley and put their military spend in Burnley's account. You know, all of a sudden Burnley become the world's richest club and the superpower. Well, surely we've got, like, I don't get the short-term pitch. Surely we've got to insulate against this.